Hey guys, Dominic the Master Stroker here. Today we are going to be painting these walls, leaving the trim. So we're going to be showing you the process that we do when we're just painting the walls. And one of the main differences is going to be we're going to be taking some extra precautions just to keep that trim safe. I'll show you what that looks like. So first things first, we're going to get the room set up, drop set up, paint all set up. Get everything nice and ready, so when you're ready to go, ready to start painting, you don't have any hiccups. So here we go. Okay, as you can see here, we got our drop set up, everything on the drops. Next thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna start taping these baseboards. So the first thing we're gonna come through with is just some regular tape. And then the next thing we're gonna come through with is some hand masking and some 12-inch tape. Just run it along our first tape line, just to cover all the baseboards, make sure that no drips get on them, anything like that, because we aren't painting those and we don't want any paint on them. So I'll show you how this looks like. You wanna lead your first hand about 2 feet out and slowly place it on with the back hand. Maybe 6 inches at a time. Smooth it out. So after you place your 6 inches on the back end right back here, smooth it out softly, slowly get a little more firmer till it's nice and pressed down. If you start off too firm, you'll start getting little bubbles in your tape. But if you don't press it down firm enough in the end, then you're gonna get bleed through. So don't be afraid to take a little extra time on this part. It's gonna save you time in the long run if you just do it right. And also what I'm looking for is just a tiny little gray line on my tape, because the trim is gray. I just want to paint just a little bit under the trim. That way we don't have any bit of the wall color showing through once we finish. You can kind of do this top pretty quick. You've already made a nice straight line. As you're going, just look for any little bits that are rising up on the straight line. It should look like, as you can see, there's going to be no paint that gets on that trim when we're rolling these walls. this wall right here. We'll do a quick first coat. So what we're doing on our first coat is gonna be rolling the walls, rolling the ceiling, and then the special thing for this trim right here, we're just gonna be getting really close. We're not actually gonna be touching the tape till our second cut. So just get right above the tape on your first cut. And then on your second cut, you can come in and get on that tape. That's just because we don't want any bleed through. So here we go. The secret for these cuts is that you really want to get that paintbrush loaded up. Make sure you have a nice bit of paint on there. And the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to put a line across close to the ceiling. And then you're going to come back and then you're going to cut that line straight to the ceiling. So with that little bit of paint underneath here, it will keep your brush saturated as you're cutting that line so it doesn't dry out at any point. So, first get in that corner. Get nice and close. Now that you've got a nice close line, we're going to come in and we're going to push just a little bit the bristles up into the corner. And you want to paint a little onto the ceiling rather than painting a little onto the wall, because you'll see the wall color on the ceiling easier than you'll see the wall color. I mean, you'll see the ceiling color on the wall easier than you'll see the wall color on the ceiling. So get it right up in there. And just let it glide across that line. Alright, and then right after you do that, take your mini roller. Hopefully you have one a little smaller than this. Get it nice and saturated. And we're just going to roll out our brush marks right here. And what we're going to do on this first coat is we're just going to mini roll really close to the tape, but not quite get on the tape. We're going to mini roll around these electrical outlets as well. Just a little easier to get in there with a mini roller rather than a 18-inch. So as you can see, we just tried our best to just get very close. I'm not sure if you can even see much of a color difference. There are a couple spots where the mini roll hits the tape. As long as there's only a couple and you're not dousing the whole thing, you should be just fine. So there's the first wall cutting. Now we are going to get to rolling in, so I'll place you right down here. Try and give you some tips as we go along. When you first start getting rolling, it's not going to be completely saturated because the paint needs to get to the inside. So you're going to have to dip a few more times when you first start. But here we go. Let a couple rolls out. See, if I left it like this, it would start dripping. But if you kind of rotate it as you bring it to the wall and get it on there. So first you're going to be laying off, getting all that paint off your roller onto the wall. Like I said, you're going to have to dip a couple times in the beginning just to get the roller going. Okay, we're still laying on right here, so we're just getting the paint on the wall, not worrying about any fat spots or any lap marks yet. Alright, and while your roller is still pretty saturated, you're going to come in. There's absolutely no pressure on the roller. Don't push it into the wall at all. And just lay off all those, the stippling, any fat marks that you might have made. Making sure it's nice and smooth. And then if you do have really good lighting like this, or if you have a light, you can just look back at your work, see if there's any spots that are a little heavy. I'm just going to go over a few of these spots. And that looks a whole lot better. So with an 18, you can do like half a wall at a time, lay it on, lay it off. With a 9-inch, you might want to do like a quarter, maybe a third. 2-3 dunks is usually a good rule. And while you're starting off, as you see, I'm kind of like hitting the wall with my finger every once in a while. You just gotta watch out for some lint. If you're first starting off, look back at your work. Make sure there's no drip spots, anything like that. If you're looking for 1 hot dogs, 2 lap marks. They're both usually gonna come from you either having a little too much paint or not enough paint on your roller. So most comes from not having enough and you're pushing onto the wall. So you gotta make sure you have enough paint where you don't need to be pushing into that wall. So as you see, no imperfections, nothing on that wall. Everything looks really smooth. I kept that wet edge, and what that means is I started at this side and I moved it all the way to here. I didn't start here in this corner, do a little bit over here, go over here. I just kept that nice wet edge across, so it's gonna be it's gonna dry all consistently. So I'll put you on a little time lapse. We'll do the rest of this. First coat, same deal with everything. We're just cutting really close to the tape lines. We're cutting the ceiling lines properly, and then we're just rolling the walls behind. first coat is a success. But now we're gonna go around and sand the walls with a pole sander right here. So we're just gonna quickly go over these spots, and that's gonna just get rid of any boogers, any pieces of lint that might have been on the roller, and then make it a nice smooth surface. So if you kind of feel over your wall, you'll feel kind of just little things here and there. A lot of the stuff was from even when I started painting, but I like to do it after the first coat so you can get anything that you put on the wall. Like, probably can't see right here. See if we can get this light on it. Just right about here. Just little pieces of lint, things like that were on the roller. So we'll get started. Okay, once that first coat is dry, you're gonna take some pretty fine grit sandpaper, 120, 150, and then just start sanding down. So you don't want to hold it this way. You don't want to hold it completely this way. You want something a little in between, like that. And we're gonna go up and down your wall. We're gonna get this light on too, just so we can see any imperfections at all in this wall. You want that light coming kind of from the side, so you'll see any shadows, if there's any imperfections. Like I said earlier, your hands are actually your best eyes. So just a quick pass over the hands. Make sure it's nice and smooth. That feels pretty good. Okay, and for the second coat, it's just a little bit different from the first coat. So we've cut the ceiling up there, up top, and we are going to roll the walls next. And we're just gonna leave this tape down at the bottom, just because we're gonna pull it immediately after we do our second cut on that. So I'll put you down. I'll let you get a little time lapse of me rolling this. Then I'm gonna come in and then give you a couple tips on cutting, especially on this final cut line. Okay, here we go. As you can see, we got this second coat on, and then the final step is just do these baseboards right here. And we got a little trick for this that you may have not heard of before. So I'll get you up nice and close to the trim. We'll give you a quick how-to on the second coat Basically, we're gonna be showing you how to cut that trim without any paint bleeding through the tape. So here we go. All right, what you'll need for this, guys, is a caulk gun. Cut the tip nice and small. A damp rag, some gloves are really helpful if you don't want to get a bog and put your caulk on your fingers. So first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna go over the tape one more time, just in case any is pulled up. We want it to be nice and tight on that trim. No chance of any bleed through. All the way down to the end. Alright, now that all our tape is down, nice and snug, I'm going to take this caulk gun, a really thin strip along the top of the tape line. Just enough to seal the edge. That's exactly what we're doing here. We are sealing the tape edge. This is gonna work better than any tape that claims to have any product to keep the edge clean, although rock tape is pretty good. It just is gonna be one step even better, and you don't even have to buy that expensive stuff. You can do this with just general contractor's tape if you want. We've got some 3M here. I just like this 3M because it's reasonably cheap, but you know you're not gonna have any issues with it. So right after you put that caulk line down, just go with your finger, get some of that excess off as much as you can. And then right after, come in with a damp rag and just get the rest of that off. And the reason you use a damp rag, just because you don't want to get these little crumbly pieces that you might get with a dry rag by the friction heating it up. It's a nice damp rag. Come across the bottom one last time. And you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, this is a lot of time to be spending, but you only have to do this once, and we're gonna cut without a brush. Watch this. And we're gonna unload it just a little bit, and then we're gonna start cutting into that line. Make sure it's nice and heavy so it's gonna cover. And this will completely eliminate any brush marks. So goodbye to those. At least on the baseboards. So, like I said, on the first coat, we just cut it really, really close with a mini roller to the trim, but we didn't quite get there, so we're gonna have to make sure we lay it on really thick so there's no flashing. And this caulk allows you to lay it on as thick as you can, basically. Obviously, don't want any drips, but as thick as that paint will stick. Here we go. All right, and let's take a look. Some people spend 35 years to learn how to cut a straight line. Some people tape, they have this issue with even when them brushing, there's still little bits on the trim. But take a look at this. Perfect cut line with a mini roller. Shebang. died during cleanup, but we're gonna give you guys one final look. Here we go. We're gonna ask the client to walk around in just a minute. Absolutely perfect, as you can see. Laser sharp. Every single thing here, absolutely laser sharp. You can't really see that one, can you? That's why I use that caulking trick, super good. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, you can cut with a piece of tape. Can you cut it off? Well, look at this ceiling line. Can't really get much sharper than that, can you? And it's every single ceiling line. Stipple, absolutely tiny with this 1/4 inch. I think the client's gonna be really, really happy with this one. And we managed to protect that trim really well. Not a single drop of paint on that trim. So there we go, another one in the books. That's how we paint our walls here at Master Stroke. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, whatever you can do to help that algorithm so I can keep making videos for you guys. All right, I'll see you on the next one.